Okay, welcome back to the desk. First of all, 2 matches down. Finally, we're through the rubbish part of the session, I want to say, because I'm sick of seeing NA versus NA. I'm sick of seeing EU versus EU. Let's get that international competition going.
It's time to mix things up between the Atlantic and the Pacific. We're going to have Most Wanted against Rival. We're just coming off of Most Wanted against Eager in the last set, where we did see the split. Most Wanted, they were struggling a little bit in the early game, but that they managed to pick it back up.
That's a good point. And to be fair, when you look to the Rival set, they won game 1 and game 2. They nearly lost that one too, but luckily came back to it. And go back to the Most Wanted there in the background, you see young homie, but Clow, big performance from him in that first game, and he has to continue it.
Absolutely. He was struggling a little bit early on because of Eager's aggressive strategy shutting him down, but transitioning into that mid to late game, he was just such a pivotal part in terms of Most Wanted's damage output.
In this, Clow having a little look at what was going on with him there. Obviously, technical issues. What a shock. But anyway, back to what Clow was doing. In that second set, we saw him in the Vulcan early game, went 0-5, but somehow managed to rally it back.
It was just the aggressive positioning from Eager. They overextended ever so slightly, and also the addition of the Athena taunts into the Vulcan ultimates. We saw that one-shot Aircougar at one point, and that was a big pivotal part in terms of Most Wanted, finding that easy pick and then transitioning it into an easy Phoenix.
And it worked out well for Most Wanted in that second game. So they managed to find the split in that one, so they're on 1 point now. Now the magic number, if you're not used to this group stage, is 5 points. 5 points and you guarantee yourself through to the next round. Well, Rival coming into this, they're 3 points already. If they find a win here, they're already through.
Even though Rival are 2 points ahead currently of Most Wanted, I would say that it's Most Wanted that have the momentum riding into this game because they're just coming off of a big win off of Eager. However, on the flip side, Rival was able to snip out some of the strategies.
That's true. Rival were able to watch that whole set against Eager, look at both those North American teams and work out what exactly they're going to run. But the difference is that when you face them yourselves, they probably have different strategies because when you face NA versus NA, you have to mix things up because you know each other so well.
You're always going to be the similar scrim partners day in and day out at the same routine time, but it's not the same environment. We're at LAN currently. It's not online play. So these teams going to be battling against each other for the very first time.
Well, I'm looking at as well towards the jungler here. Rapio on the side of Rival. Good game. Played the Erlang Shen in 1 point as well. And then he's going to have to deal with Clow as well and just see how he can deal with Clow in the mid lane. If he can get started on him, it could work out.
And the thing about Clow is, even though he was struggling a little bit earlier on, he's always the vocal point of Most Wanted. I don't know if the cameras picked it up, but at the end of the game, he was doing a rallying call. He grouped up his whole team in a huddle, and he was just making the shot calls.
Making the shot calls. Can Clow continue to do it? I mean, that's the big talking point overall. Clow! Clow! Clow!
Clow, he's probably the most fun one to have on the team. He's a really good shot caller, and he's very good mechanically.
Well, I know Clow has basically been a joke in the community for 3 years, but I also know he's very good. All I can say is I don't want him to play Clow back mid.
Clow's just crazy. Yeah, really funny guy, yeah.
Clow, I mean, he has amazing calls. Like, our team usually relies on those calls because they're just unique and like they fit the situation or whatever.
Hey, just another mid laner. Just another one to be killed, you know what I mean?
Clow is an eccentric person, that's all I can say, and I think he plays quite eccentric. If everyone watches him play, he's kind of, he plays kind of like cheeky strats, he's kind of bait a lot of stuff out. He's smart what he does. You kind of don't think he's smart, you kind of think he's doing stupid stuff, but he's always kind of calculated, so you kind of be careful, he's not going to bait you into some sort of trap.
Clow is nuts. He has like a really weird play style, but I love it.
He's a joke, just absolute joke.
He's a really good mid laner, and I'm actually really good friends with him in real life, so I like the guy. And I would like to, I'd actually love to play against him, because I think it will be a good match against them and us.
Into picks and bans we go then, and we'll see, after all the talk of what other people think about him, he lives up to expectation of some of those.
Absolutely. We just, even though there's a little bit of banter, as you guys would say in the Europe side of things, Most Wanted, they're still on top of things. They know when it's time to joke around and when it's time to be serious. And right now in picks and bans, it's time to be serious.
Well, Most Wanted came out into the console league this split expecting to come mid-table for most people. They expected Eager and Saw to be 1 and 2, whichever way round. And in the end, they stormed through the competition. They annihilated Eager and Saw for the most part and went, all right, boys, we're here to play.
The rich history between those two organizations coming out of North America allowed everyone to kind of just forget about Most Wanted and their true capabilities with every single one of their players. They were able to develop these strategies and pick the gods that they're most comfortable with and then just run away with it last split.
Well, we talk about strategies and we look at the bans coming out and they're all focused on jungle bans already. One more left for Most Wanted here. Will it be the Erlang Shen to stop Rapio maybe taking that one back into the jungle again or giving it a dominant to somebody else?
Rapio was definitely doing a great job with the Erlang Shen. There's also the Fafnir that's available, but with that Erlang Shen being banned, I wouldn't be surprised if Rival pick up the Fafnir.
It should be a Fafnir here. It makes perfect sense to do so and get that into their back pocket. Fafnir is just great at all stages of the game. Obviously, the Coerce for that buff, very strong, but no. Dominant solo laner.
So Gnome, they're very afraid of Gnome. I'm sorry, they're afraid of wolves on the Raven. So they're going to strip that away immediately. However, the late game coming out of Most Wanted on Transonics, he's very similar to Jiron, where he'll go for these kind of style late game picks, whether it's the Shibalanke, the Freya, or the Soul.
But this is very, very interesting already looking at this. But the Fafnir is going to get through instead for a Guan Yu for Most Wanted. So Fafnir goes to Rival. Now, looking at them taking a Raven as first pick just shows how much they rely and expect Wolves to be the focal point of their focus in this set.
And we saw Rival against Retribution where they let Retribution pick up the Fafnir and they go for a counter strategy where they don't really care about the team area of effect, objective control. They'll go for more of an isolated picks, get the ward control, look for somebody slipping.
Well, I'm looking at the ISIS pick for Rival here. Atonement going to run that one back. I didn't feel too comfortable on it last time, although it did steal that Fire Giant, and if you can do that this game, then you'll be okay.
Whenever you can control those late game objectives, especially with a long-range Spirit Ball and Circle of Protection, then that's the key to victory. And key to victory, the Raijin.
Totally. This is a game. Look at these jungler bans that are coming through here. Obviously, I see the backers from Rival. That's very smart after picking up Fafnir for themselves. But if they focus more on junglers here, I'm very interested to see where they go. Is that going to be a Freya jungle, possibly? That is one thing that it could be.
Freya jungle, we haven't really seen it very often, but as long as you get out of the early game and you finish the Fatalis, the Shoes of the Maga, you're going to be doing so much damage. So no matter what lane you gank, even if it's solo lane, you're going to find those kills.
Okay, it's going to be the Neja instead, and I kind of expected that overall. I was just pointing out there about Freya, especially when you look at the bans, technically, on Baby, 7 of those are focused on the junglers right now. Back over to Rival, and they do need a jungler.
There's so many off the table. Sun Wukong gonna get locked in, and with Raven, Fafnir, Sun Wukong, this means that one of those warriors are jumping into that jungle.
Well, they need a hunter, first of all. I mean, they could also pick up a jungler and run Sun Wukong or Raven in the duo lane is the other option, but I expect, like you said, one of them is going into the jungle. Maybe just Raven? I want to say Raven's probably the one.
It depends how aggressive you want to be coming out of the jungle, or if you're going for poke. If you're going for poke, definitely want to put Sun Wukong in the jungle.
Yep.
If you're gonna go for the aggression and find some kills, you want to put Raven in the jungle.
Well, we'll see what they do. Rival really having to think hard now because Raven has Sun Wukong on their roster, and they will round things off with the Hou Yi as well. Very frontline orientated composition. There's 3 frontliners, an Isis and a Hou Yi on the backside to try and hold it down against a Neja that's going to be diving in deep.
And there's no better physical hunter than the Hou Yi currently in the late game stages to take advantage of the Freya on top. That ultimate from Hou Yi raining down the suns is going to dissect Most Wanted, especially once the Guan Yu initiates with a cavalry charge. Hou Yi will just drop the suns, and it's going to make it less tempting for Most Wanted to really follow up off of that initiation.
Well, Most Wanted having a long, hard think about this final pick for themselves. Now, need a hunter as well, obviously. Unless, actually, no, they don't. I'm lying. It could be the solo laner here or support, depending where Guan Yu is going to flex to here.
With the Sun Wukong and Raven already picked, I would love to see the Guan Yu in the support because it's very difficult to get out of the early laning phase. So it's going to be the tier instead, who's very safe.
And when you think about it, Televisol does some decent damage to those minions in the early game, will help Freya a little bit, and the sustain from the conviction will allow her to take some of this poke that she's probably going to receive from Rival's duo lane now.
And I love the control coming out of Most Wanted. With this tier Raijin combination, whether the Raijin chooses to taunt or to fear with his ultimate, the tier here will definitely get nice fearlesses as well. There's some really good purification burners out of Most Wanted.
So before we even look at laning phases of these compositions, Toli, when I'm looking at Rival and their composition on paper for team fights, who should be the primary peeler for this team, do you expect? Because one of them's going to have to sit back to protect these carries, right?
I would say definitely the Sun Wukong has to stay into the backline, find multiple knockups with his Ox form. Maybe you can also see the Fafnir trying to look for the stuns once he goes into the Dragon form. Robin is more than likely going to be that character that's going to penetrate the backline, although Rival, they have such a mixed composition where they can be hyper-aggressive and just have all three of their frontline carries go into the back.
One problem with it, though, is the hard engage for Rival. They're relying on a long-range Spirit Ball, they're relying on Raven going deep, some Wukong's, 72 transformations and Tiger stance to try and find something. That's the biggest issue. Or Fafnir's Hammer, I guess, as well. But that's the biggest issue, is engage.
That's true, but they have to the only thing they have to look out for from Most Wanted is the engage from the Tier and the Naja.
Gotcha.
If they can put those two gods into combat, preventing the blink after level 12, it makes it that much more difficult, and they have to stay onto those three frontline gods coming out of Rival.
Thinking about it more, maybe they look for counter initiation, the most part of this. Look for the counter every single time. Play it very safe, sit back, let them go aggressive, and then turn it on its head. Well, into game we go, and we do see it's going to be jungle Sun Wukong here, and he's taken Wrath at the beginning of this game as well. Sun Wukong, old days of old, Trickstank boys, Trickstank fans of old will know and recognize that Sun Wukong with a Wrath is very dangerous at Fire Giants and Gold Furies.
We've seen him steal red buff multiple times and then just bird form away. And I like the idea out of Rival putting the Sun Wukong here because you're pairing it up with an Isis. You have the double long range poke. You have good space control as well.
One thing about this though, Rapio played Erlang Shen early on today, so he's looks like he's trying to switch up his gods in terms of the jungle. I'm not going for these assassins, going for warriors now.
And it's still really early in the day to be doing this kind of strategy.
Yeah.
You're coming off a 2-0 victory earlier on against Retribution. You have some flexibility currently. You don't want to be read like an open book. If you constantly pick up Erlang Shen, then you're putting yourself in a position where, okay, now it's going to get banned away, and what do I do? But if you succeed really well with Sun Wukong this game, maybe that will deserve a respect ban.
And then you've also got the respect ban of Erlang Shen as well. So look at the jungle at the beginning of this game. It's lit up like a Christmas tree with all these wards on the map. So Most Wanted know there's going to be no invade coming out this Raven Sun Wukong early on. Obviously up against the Tier and the Nijar, there could be a few issues there. But it's going to be a farm off for the time being. It looks like we'll see where the junglers go, if they go to mid lane or go to solo to soak.
Raven in the solo lane is very scary in the early level 1, so I like the wards coming out of Most Wanted. They just want to get to a position where their mid and jungle are going to start pairing up. The Raishin are going to do wonders with this Naja combination.
Left hand side, a lot of aggression from Zenborne here, just doing his best to push them back and allow free farm there for his Ho Yi to get the pressure on.
And without the Tower Assault on the wave, it's going to consistently enter the tower, going to deny some of that important early game gold.
Interesting that we saw Tier rotate all the way over from the solo lane to soak up those right-hand harpies there as well, trying to get a bit of a lead early on because he knows in the early stages against a Raven, he's just going to be respectful and farm this up.
Once you have the level 2 power cleave for your defensive stance, that's when you can start trading efficiently with the Raven. You want to be able to soak up that early jungle experience, whether it's the Fire Giant Elementals or the right side mid Harpies, and get out of that early game as quickly as possible.
Looking at the two supports here, it's Guan Yu and Fafnir. Fafnir gone for the shell here, worried about the burst damage potential coming out from their opposition. Across the way though, Guan Yu with the meditation, so double heals coming out from Guan.
And I like this idea because it's going to be the long range poke out of the, but Wolves already very low, having to use that level 2 defensive stance, still having the potions, but going back off of the dual lane, the double heal out of the Guan Yu is just going to do a great job negating the long range poke out of Fafnir and the Hu Yi.
So important to check what items your opponent's picked up, especially the relics here in the early game, just so you don't overcommit, make a mistake thinking you can get a kill and have it turned on his head. Good Spirit Ball in mid lane, which is going to cancel out that sash, luckily enough, just before it connected.
A small timing casting window, perfectly executed. Left hand side, just Zenborne exchanging some poke with Mad Koi's. Nothing really too much to talk about there, but it looks like Sun Wukong and Ice is trying to pair up, looking for a rotation out of the solo, but not going to find it.
Well, we mentioned about engage as well and how Sun Wukong may have to rely on that Tiger stance to find the stun, but he also has Wrath as well. He could use the Wrath to engage for his team and then follow it up with a Tiger afterwards, if he gets in range.
He just has to be careful because Isis already has 2 crowd controls, and stacking that up with a Wrath, there's going to be a lot of diminishing returns coming out of Rival.
Well, Wolves here over in the solo lane, doing good things for himself now, starting to hit that sustain. And Gnome with a poke earlier on, we saw him like get Tier low, but the problem was is he wasted everything, all his cooldowns on poking out instead of clearing the way.
And just the mentality from Wolves, he didn't panic. He knew that he was going to take that poke and get level 4, have that level 2 defensive power cleave stance, and just absorbed all the poke out of Gnome.
A little bit of an advantage for Headhunter here. You can see he's already level 5, and Transonics started at level 4 now. Has to be a little bit respectful, at least until this wave is clear when they should ding at the same time. As there's an invade on the right-hand side, but look at this. Suns are down, and they're looking at Transonics, but he has hit 5 as well here.
Not much going on except Dragon Form onto Mad Koi, finding the stun. Meanwhile, on the right-hand side, there's a big team fight. Gonna find the Gnome in the air, and that's gonna be first blood.
Great little rotation coming out there from Sanishore, but the turnaround could be here. Can Rapio make anything happen? He's using the cloud to get in range, looking for the slow as well, but there's no follow-up damage. Has to avoid the Taiko drums, and Ice is going to return some decent damage, but it's not enough for a kill.
Only 1 kill going in the favor of Most Wanted. Sinashore barely escaping with his life. The tier having to back, but does have teleport to come back in. Gonna finish off the Warrior tab. He has to be really careful because he still has Lawbringer, and he could turn this around.
Well, Atonement out of mana there on the Isis, and Rapio going to try and return to his jungle. If Most Wanted would have recognized that, they could have looked for an invade. Over to Duoside one more time, and the engagement is still going on. Remember, Meditate is still available here for Matt Coys, who for me had a fantastic game 2 last game.
A lot of cooldowns were used in the dual lane. I'm very fearful of a rotation. Gonna have the ultimate out of Transonics. A little bit of fear, I would say.
Yeah, a bit surprised by that, because obviously Meditation was still available. He was on full health already. He could have just hung around, but maybe a bit worried about being body blocked. That's the other thing.
Maybe he didn't know where the enemy was in the jungle, so wanted to be very careful after that crowd control.
Well, talk about the enemy in the jungle. He has gone back to base there. Rapio picked up his boots one at the moment, and continuing to head back. I think he's just looking for Game Warrior Tabby. There you go. As well as Isis on the way back as well.
Now tier 1 level ahead of Gnome, recognizing he has more sustain. Gonna bully out Gnome, and I love this play. The teleports are down for both of these characters, and with the sustain from Wolves, you have to be this aggressive.
And Wolves very aggressive and expected to be one of the best players on console, according to a lot of people, at least in the solo lane. And Watson and Gnome, well, they're from Europe, and they won't be having any of that. They're interested in trying to do it themselves. But invade from Wolves here.
Gnome is very low. He can't really rotate. Wolves gonna miss out the Fearless, but the rotation from Naja, finding Gnome into the solo lane because of the poke from Wolves.
And this is what Sinashore needs to do. Get off to a good start, get himself confident, and then allow his team to try and push the advantage. He gets the kill, but I don't think they can invade against 3.
I mean, it's a level 9 Naja. The ultimate is down. They're going to look for poke. The ring bounces are really good.
But Wolves gets engaged on the Tiger stance, comes out, and he's going to have to be careful about getting away. Looking for the Lawbringer over the wall, and he will find it, but there's rotations here. Cavalry charger line stood onto Atonement. Has to Sanctuary and drop the massive ultimate to heal himself up, but he's still going to go down.
And we have the rotation coming out of the Raijin with the Drums of War, finding another kill onto Zenborne. So far, it's a 2-for-0 play. Most Wanted, just on the better end of the trades.
They're just finding the trade every time, totally here. What's the biggest problem? Are they just not confirming the kill rival, or is it just Most Wanted playing these fights so much better?
It's the small little plays coming out of Wolves currently. He's bullying out Gnome very effectively. Gnome already 2 deaths on this side. Not really what you want to be against a tier in the early game that struggles.
Not just that, but look at Sinashore now. Level 10 to the level 7 of Sun Wukong here on that Warrior. He's got 3 kills, and the gold lead is over 1,000 in his favor here.
And the thing is, it seemed that Rival were so scared about Wolves having the Robin that they just forgot that he also has a tier.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tier on that team as well. It's crazy when you think about it.
He's just so effective with the tier. He knows the strategy of the Robin. If you're as good as Robin, you know the counter, picking up the tier. And Headhunter trying to exchange some poke. And this is what you want to do against an early game Freya before the Fatalis and the Magi boots come online.
Wouldn't mind seeing Headhunter maybe engage with that leap a little bit, just knowing that he missed the banish already. He had a bit of free time, but here's another gank. One more time on Robin. One more time Gnome will fall. He's finding out what North American solo lane meta is all about here.
But look at this, Rival going to try to sneak up the gold here because of the heavy solo lane rotation. Teleport is available on tier. He has to look for the rotation. Freya underneath as the cavalry charge comes out.
But the Spirit Ball was off the mark. Good cavalry charge always gets the stun. Goldfield goes to Rival. The fight may not, because that was a great Fearless coming out from Wolves. He dives to the back and gets Transonics the first kill. Continuing on with the Lawbringer, and boom goes the Dynamite. Dragon down, as is Hou Yi.
There was no mana for the Hou Yi to jump away. 3 kills. Oh, going in the way, and Cloud in a lot of trouble, but he doesn't care because Cynosure is right beside him. Gnome in a sticky spot has to ultimate away, and even though Rival do confirm the Gold Fury, it was Most Wanted that found those 3 kills.
And they've got great pressure all over the map here. Transonics can go back to base after proxy farming a wave there. They haven't got enough damage to take a tier 1 tower down just yet, but that still went in their favor. The gold, as you can see at the top, is around 2,000 gold lead still at this stage.
And Cynosure, level 11 on the Naja. If there's ever a jungler that you don't want to have this kind of momentum on, it's definitely the Naja. And you pair this with the Raijin coming out of the mid, and Wolves playing this tier so successfully coming out of solo. These mid-game teamfights are going to start working so well for Most Wanted.
So early game's not gone Rival's way at all. We can just be straight up and say that. And we're heading towards mid, and they're going to be behind a little bit at this stage. But the difference is how is mid versus mid-game for Rival?
Well, it's about Rival getting tanky with their front line. They have the Robin, the Sumokong, and the Fafnir, but they're all under-leveled. 9 on the solo and jungler, and only level 8 on the Fafnir. Nice try by Cynosure. He might be caught in an awkward position.
Ult, though, if he needs to, and the sustain from Conviction. Good, great Spirit Ball over the wall from Atonement, but just no follow-up available for Rival.
So just not being successful in the invade, but finding the necessary displacement and positioning. Atonement underneath, but finding one into the sky is Zenborne. He's only level 8.
But is Cloud going to be able to follow this up? That's the question. The Circle of Protection was beautiful, and Zenborne actually gets the kill with the Draconic form. Great hammer, great stun again on Koiz, and Koiz has to mount the horsey and run away to safety.
The problem was Cynosure. He was getting pincered behind after that speed buff invade. Wanted to really find the Isis that was underneath, but expected to find an easy kill, considering the fact that the Fafnir was only level 8, doesn't really have that many defensive items online quite yet.
Very unfortunate for Rival here. They looked for the red buff to try and invade and see if it was available there. There's nothing in the jungle for them to take, even though they won that engagement there, forced a few people back to base and found their first kill.
But Wolves, he's thinking about invading this blue buff, trying to Gnome.
Did he steal it? I think he got it.
I think he stole it. Yeah.
The Fist of Fury, even the laugh came out as well.
I think that was an in-hand after the Fist
it
of
was just
Fury.
an auto. He hit it with an auto. Those fists are so dangerous, man.
You have to be careful, man.
Got to be careful. Over to the dual lane one more time, and Headhunter having a bit of an easy time against Transonics at this stage of the game, but Transonics is someone that doesn't care about having a good old Barney in this dual lane. Luckily, he's got a bit of minions in his advantage, Headhunter. Otherwise,
and that's because of the Fatalis onto the Freya. We saw earlier on that Hui was able to be on the better end of that. A little bit of poke onto the mid lane. Atonement has no mana. He has to back. There's 3 members out of Most Wanted, but nobody here to defend this mid tower from Rival.
I'm actually looking at the way Most Wanted to play in this game, Tolly, and you can just see the confidence exuding from them because of Cynosure start to this game for them. Cloud's diving in on Isis, you've got Transonics diving in the duo lane, and then over on the right hand side, Tear's like, what's up, I'm trying to take your blue.
The sustain from Matt Koiz is going to allow Cloud to keep being this aggressive, especially if Isis has no mana, and there's 3 members grouped up from Most Wanted. They're still looking to play aggressive off of their beautifully placed sentry ward. No vision coming out of Rival in this corridor.
They're just waiting for one person to walk up to the waves and soak. That's why they put Cloud there. Cloud's going to sit there and like, okay, they're coming, they're looking for the banish from Transonics more than likely, and have the follow-up come round. Here he comes round the corner. Although, bad news for them, Rival recognize it and actually swing around to the right, but I don't think they did realize it.
I don't think they know, but they see Transonics force out the purification, but there's nobody else to really follow up. Cavalry charge, going to force out the dragon form, and teams are going to reset.
And the drums of war are sounding, the circle of protection down, because decent damage there on the backside to the 4-year-old lad of Nijar, who takes to the sky, getting away from the danger for now, but he's still surrounded. Cynosure goes down to Zenborne, and the acid spray is doing work. However, Wolves takes out Atonement in the midst of that, and Wolves takes out Headhunter too. Tear is amazing.
That's the same start as Cynosure did fall in the beginning, but a different result as the rotation from Wolves was just so strong. 3 for 2 currently in the favor, but Cloud's not done.
Cloud.
He might have bit off a little more than he could chew.
And round the back comes Transonics. He loves to try and swing round behind and catch enemies unaware, but Cloud just committed again. We've seen him do that a couple of times this game. Little bit too confident, and he paid the iron price.
Should have went for a smaller objective that Wolves is doing currently, going for the speed buff instead. They had the player advantage, 3 for 2, but you don't really want to go for the tier 1 tower without a true physical hunter. It's a Freya that's good for getting kills, but not really so good in terms of getting the towers.
And it's a benefit for Rival here, though. They've managed to weather the storm and not let the gold lead slip any further out of field here. If you notice, it's actually slowly drifting back in their favor. Experience about the same still.
as long as Most Wanted can hold on to their sentries and look for these aggressive plays, it's so unfortunate for Most Wanted that Rival opted to go for the right-hand side. They had no idea that they were getting flanked.
That's very true indeed. 11-4 now is a bit of a kill fiesta in the first EU versus NA matchup in this one. 15 kills in less than 12 minutes. And 1 Gold Fury down, but the second one has just spawned.
The later this game goes, the more difficult it's going to be for Most Wanted on Sinush or Naja, because everyone's going to get so tanky. He has to be very careful about using his ultimate now. He has to try to find the backline.
We got 2 TPs coming in as Tears just turned up round the back of this team, and Rival don't recognize it yet. They will now. Wolves with the Fearless going to force out Purification from Atonement, who's wing gust into safety. He's not going to get very far, though. The protection will keep him alive for a second, but the Lawbringer says no. Cloud gets credit for the kill onto Atonement, as Rapio does take out the supporting Kois here. Cloud Thunder crashing in, and they're not actually looking at him. They're trying to peel for the back here, Rival, but Wolves is having none of it. He wants the Dragon. He's eaten Fenrir before. Why not just take out a Dragon too?
Transonics finding the kill. That's going to be 3. Gnome is in a lot of trouble. This could be potentially 4. Gnome finding that, but Rapio in the back, dying to Cloud. Overall, it's a 4 for 3. Sinushore yet again sacrificing life, but it's going to be a deicide, and now Most Wanted in the driver's seat. They can't really get Gold Fury off this, but they could certainly steal this red.
At least they did tier 1 tower as well, because I think Cloud could actually push that, but instead, yep, they will just rotate for the red. 16-7. These fights are action-packed the whole way. And the funny thing is, when I'm looking at Rival, they look like chickens without heads right now. They were all over the place, but they weren't really focusing on anything.
And that's because the aggression coming out of Wolves from the backhand side and Sinushore pincering all of Most Wanted, they just weren't able to really do anything off this. The fact that the 2 aggressive melee characters were doing that kind of work allowed them to win.
And puts them in a good spot. Now, the red buff has been dropped down, but they didn't actually pick it up there, which is quite surprising. Kois has Gold Fury control. Actually, he doesn't at the moment. You can see it's actually in favor of Rival for the time being. He's going to return to his half of the jungle, soak things up with Sinushore now as we're starting to approach the 4-item mark.
14 minutes into the game, Most Wanted doing a great job finding these kills. They haven't really put themselves in a position to get Gold Furies or get towers, but they're slowly and surely stripping away buffs, and that's one way to control the game. However, they have to be careful because the late game out of the Hu Yi is also very scary.
I think we need to see Rival maybe ward a little bit deeper in their own jungle, get some sentries. A good banish though. That's going to force him into an awkward spot. Transonics going to run him down, and so is Matt Kois. Going to get Purification too. However, Matt Kois not committed, but round the back comes Sinushore, and he picks it up, and that's one thing Most Wanted is so very, very good at.
Out of nowhere, Sinushore finding the kill and taking Zenborne into the sky. Needs a lot of follow-up damage, but the Cavalry Charge and Freya Ultimate are down, forcing out the Dragon form. Cloud makes the rotation as well. Should be able to get this tower. No run really in position.
I mean, look at the map.
Most Wanted.
Look at the map. Nobody responded from Rival there. Isis sat mid lane. We saw Rapio on the Sun Wukong doing his speed buff. Raven was still in lane. So they all managed to rotate here, and now they're going to have to fight 3v4.
And Cloud playing aggressive yet again. Rapio taking so much damage, even forced to use his ultimate. He's completely out of the fight.
This time around, it's not worked out with the Warrior in the jungle. Zenborne forced to ult here, and he gets hit by the full Taiko drums. Leaps away, and he will survive. As now, look at that jumping in there. Gnome trying to help out his team. He may be in trouble himself.
But it doesn't matter because Tier is finding the Tier 1 tower in the solo side because of this rotation. Most Wanted are just all over the place. They're winning on all sides. They get the Tier 1 on the left, and now they get the Tier 1 on the right.
They're just pulling the team of Rival anywhere they want on the map right now. You want to come over and stop Tier 2? Cool. We'll take Tier 1 this side. You want to go and get the Tier 1 left side? Cool. We'll get them on the right side. Now we're going to pressure mid.
And I love the patience behind this. They're not committing to the gold. They're not committing to the Tier 1 mid quite yet. They're just waiting for the right opportunity. A lot of cooldowns were
Wolves
used.
Is behind him. Again, I didn't know if he was going to go in there for a second, because he may look at Headhunter, who shouldn't have Purification here, so he will just back away for now. Most Wanted want their own speed buff here, as Rival group it up in mid, but Transonics, look how far forward he is.
Nice swoop onto Atonement. Circle of Protection doesn't even matter. Finding Atonement and the Lawbringer in the back.
Into a fearless combo, and Headhunter is in the air for days. Juggle that one, Sunshine. Now they're looking onto the poor old Dragon Man one more time. Under the tower, that protection shred paying dividends to allow Transonics to pick up a kill, and now they can get a Tier 1 tower.
We talk about momentum earlier on, and Most Wanted certainly have the momentum, finding an additional 4 kills, now securing the Tier 1 mid tower, going for the Tier 2. It seems that Rival were certainly not prepared this game.
Sorry, I wouldn't normally say this, but at this stage of the game, put a fork in it, it's done. This looks like it's done already. This slip is just getting worse, and Rival just cannot respond.
The experience gap is just too much, and now with the experience will come the gold. Already 7,000 gold this quickly, now about to be another 8,500 after this Gold Fury.
But look at Most Wanted in their shot calling here. Look where Sinosure is here. He's not worried about going for the Gold Fury. He's trying to push a tier 2 tower on the right-hand side at the same time, forcing someone to either defend or the defense happens at the Gold Fury instead of Rapio. He's got Wrath, but he's got no life.
He has no life, but the Cloud, beautiful disrupt from the Ox.
Amazing.
I don't think it was really worth it to sacrifice your life at this stage for the Gold Fury, because now Most Wanted, they could realistically go for fire after gold anyway.
Well, in come the Lemmings one by one, as in Rival right now. They've got to be careful about doing that. Luckily enough, though, the hammer dissuaded them. They'll lose the Gold Fury, and Most Wanted will extend their gold lead further.
The map control is just too strong for Most Wanted. You have to respect the fact that they're going to win these team fights from now on. This Freya is in a position to follow up off of all the aggression from Most Wanted. Wolves going into the back line, Sinosure picking up whoever, even if it's going to be Zenborne, allowing Transonics to find all these easy pot shots.
And when we actually go back to that whole fight that we saw the tier 1, tier 2 fall in mid, it was Transonics leading the team in, running at them as a Freya, and they backed up. They didn't engage on him. They backed up. One gets banished, and the fight ensues, and Wolves, with that great old Lawbringer over the back, they just killed Headhunter in one.
Just so many different great initiations out of Most Wanted, whether it's the Whoop from Transonics, the Thunder Crash from Cloud. We see Sinosure always trying to be aggressive, and Wolves coming in from the backline. So Rival, they're just getting pincer maneuvered in every single team fight.
Well, there's always the Fire Giant, right? I mean, Rival did that against Retribution earlier on. They had the Isis as well, where they stole it away then. Maybe, just maybe, Most Wanted to do the same thing.
But the question is, even if they do steal the Fire Giant at this point, it seems that Rival are just so under-leveled that even with Fire Giant, they're not going to win these team fights.
I don't know. Maybe they could even things out of it. We'll find out, though. Sinosure still pressuring this right-hand side. He's got in the jungle, Guan Yu alongside him there, Matt Coys, who's having a very good tournament so far from the 2 games we saw previously from him. And now even Transonics on the way over here. So all 5 members of Most Wanted grouping up for this tier 2 tower.
They want to find a pick before they go for Fire Giant. It's going to be a very easy tier 2 tower siege. Freya doesn't want to go for the tower. They want to go for the fight.
That was early from Coys, though, way too early. But luckily, Sinosure follows up and he gets Atonement. The wing lady is in the sky. He's still alive for now, but he's not going to take him too much longer as Wolves will pick up the kill. Transonics in the back takes out the front line in Gnome. Rapio's backing up, as is the Dragon, and the tier 2's going to fall again.
Gnome was not too tanky enough to deal with the late game Transonics. Tier 2 tower getting pressured after those 2 quick picks, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Fire Giant started immediately after, but they're going for the Phoenix.
They're going to hit Meditation there. You saw Guan Yu use it immediately. Everybody back to full health. They're going to siege down here against only 3 members of Rival, and there's only 1 ultimate ult, which was Zenborne, so there's not a whole lot they can really do here, so they're just going to take Phoenix and watch as it falls.
But they're going to want to go for more. They're forced out the Sanctuary from Headhunter. Unfortunately, Cloud forced to use Sanctuary in return. Got what they came for, was that tier 2 tower and the Phoenix.
And then left immediately. Don't want to overcommit, look for the win, although lazy backs could hurt you here. Just in time. There's Rapio. He may catch one. No! Just lucky enough to get away. No Jingu Bang today. Talk to me about the composition for Rival then. Why has it not worked? Oh, hang on. They may have caught Wolves, but it is tier.
The problem with Rival was the fact that Gnome was just under-leveled the whole time because of those 3 quick deaths. We saw Wolves make a great play after the first death, was level 8 against Gnome's level 7.
Look at
and
Wolves.
found just so much poke. And look, he's still not done.
He
He's level
just doesn't
20.
care. This is the problem when you lack CC. He can just keep going in, and someone who has anti-CC in his passive, it makes it even harder.
Somebody stop him, honestly. He's level 20 and just not stopping. Level 20 minutes into the game. Just gonna
Lawbringer.
it's a 3.
Fearless, power cleaved, change stance, looking for the kill, but the circle protection was good. It's not enough to kill him, though.
But Transonics certainly will with the Freya ultimate. The mid Phoenix still going to get pressured as Cloud takes out Gnome in the back. And that's the difference between these 2 solo laners. Gnome cannot replicate what Wolves is doing in the backline.
Spirit Ball is out and Matt Coys charges in, looking for Atonement again, who has to try and get away. Silence not good enough to keep him up. His peelers are now back in base as the Phoenix falls again. It's 27-7 in 21 minutes. And right now, Europe, if you're watching, you better turn something up because NA just destroyed you.
The #1 North American team out of the SCL split. Most Wanted finding their first win against Rival. Wonderfully done. 21 minutes into the game. And look at that score difference. 27-7.
A really good performance from Most Wanted there. It comes off the back of the last game as well. Take that one.
Momentum.
They got the momentum from that one. They came in. Every single player on that team. Sinosure for me was the linchpin. He got off to such a good start that the rest of the team felt the boost, right? You saw every single one of them.
And this is what it is. It's the Cloud Huddle.
The Cloud
Huddle is what's Most Wanted's power. After the first win from Eager, they've just been a totally different team. They were not the same in that set.
You know those numbers on their back? Is that their ages? Wolves is 0-0, Cloud 7.
Cloud 7. I don't believe
26.
it. The
That makes
mental
sense.
age. Let's say it's the mental age.
Mental age. So Wolves has 0 mental age. He's like the form of a baby, but he still played that well.
He's just infinite.
Well,
That's what he is.
There's the boys at Rival. That's their first defeat today after taking on Retribution earlier on. And they're going to have to, have a little look back at what went wrong there. For me, pick some bans.
Well, they first picked Robin right away because they were so scared of Wolves playing it, and they gave up Freya and Guan Yu. Now, they picked up Fafnir off of those two picks, so it was a nice idea. It just didn't work out in theory because of how well Most Wanted shut down that first pick.
But the Sun Wukong, they picked the Sun Wukong at that stage too, and it didn't work as they intended it to.
I like the idea of having such a tanky front line that just couldn't transition away from the aggressive early game out of Most Wanted.
That's true, and the worst thing is the early game, the aggression with the Najai is just too strong than Sun Wukong. He gets pressure in solo lane, and it just snowballs from there.
And they were doing a good job shutting down Cynosure after the mid game started. It wasn't successful in that speed gank around level 10 to 12. Found 2 or 3 consecutive kills, but the problem was once Wolves started making those rotations, there was just nothing that Rival can do.
Well, you mentioned, after the first game that if Sun Wukong comes up big in this game for them in the jungle, then they've got to look to potentially ban that Most Wanted as well as Erlang Shan. Well, now that they've seen the Sun Wukong, I'm pretty sure they're like, you can take that any day of the week, boy.
But I'll tell you what, certainly want to respect Wolves' tier. No longer will Rival first pick Robin against Wolves.
I mean, you've got to have a deep god pool as a solo laner as standard anyway. And when you look at the composition on paper that Rival put together, what better thing to have in your team than a guy that is anti-CC?
And the fact was that Most Wanted's composition all relied on such heavy purification burners between the Naja, between the tier. It was just so beautifully drafted coming out of Most Wanted.
I really feel they lacked engage Rival. They also lacked crowd control as a whole in terms of engage for themselves, and that really came back to bite them.
Cloud was doing a great job at being aggressive with his Thunder Crashes, with his ultimates as well. Sometimes he did pay the price that one time, but regardless, as a whole, during the huddle after the Eager set, he said something along the lines of, even if I make a call and 3 of us die, who cares? We're going to do it, and so be it.
You have to have confidence. Like, even if you go down and you have a bad game, you've got to pick yourself back up and go back into it. The best teams in the world lose.
Absolutely.
They all do.
We
Even
saw
Panthera.
Retribution were the first seed coming out of Europe, and they lost 2 games already to Rival.
Yeah, it's just a big shock and changes between the two. So, obviously, for Game 2 here, we talked a little bit about how that game went. I'm expecting Rival will switch things up. Maybe we'll see Rapio back in an Assassin this game?
More than likely, they have to disrupt the early game flow.
Tier jungle.
Well, you took
it away from Wolves.
You took away the Robin from Wolves.
Right.
If you take away the tier again, you can't take away everything from Wolves.
You can try. You can try. And obviously, with Rapio's playstyle, then we saw him with the Warriors 2 games. He also picked, we saw him, I believe, I can't remember what it was on now, Nemesis as well, wasn't it?
It was the Nemesis 1 game, for sure. But the problem is that these 2 teams are banning out
the
Erlang Shen and the Nemesis at times, so you have to be careful about when you want to play those 2 gods. Sometimes you can find it, but it's going to get banned.